Your Notre Dame live stream will begin soon. Thanks for watching.
Welcome, everyone, in collaboration with the wonderful team at Notre Dame Studios. Welcome from the fourth floor of the main building, the Golden Dome, from the campus of Notre Dame. It's a beautiful day out. It's sunny. I would even go so far as to say it's balmy out. It's 28 degrees right now, wind chill, which from what we've had the last week or so, it feels almost balmy. So we're really appreciative that you would take the time to join us today. One person who is not with us today is my mother, because I invited her last week to be a part of the conversation with our wonderful theologian John Cavadini, knowing that she'd have some particular interest in his subject area of expertise. But when I followed up with her immediately thereafter, she said, Louis, there's two dark spots on the left side of your face. You have to go see a dermatologist. I'm very concerned about it. I'm almost 59 years of age. Some things do not change. And she had the wherewithal to call Carmen, and I'm going to see the dermatologist tomorrow. So she's been disinvited from future broadcasts, and unless I send her the link and make it really easy for her, she's not finding her own way on. I'm really thrilled today to be joined by one of Notre Dame's star faculty members. She brings so much energy and insight to the classroom. Her name is Wendy Angst, and she is the professor and the assistant department chair of the Department of Management and Organization in the Mendoza College of Business. She's been on the faculty since 2010, and she teaches at the undergraduate, graduate level, and she also teaches executive courses in, get it now, all these areas: design thinking, innovation, consulting, strategy, social media, and entrepreneurship. Throw in the kitchen sink with that as well. She also teaches annually each summer a course on innovation and design thinking at the Catholic University in Milan, Italy, which has been a wonderful experience for she and her family and the students, of course. She has won all kinds of teaching awards, both here at Notre Dame, too many to mention, and also on a national level for her areas of expertise. Prior to joining Notre Dame, Wendy served for about a decade as an entrepreneur in the healthcare space. And she was a pioneer and one of the earliest champions and architects of the electronic personal health record. She and her husband, Corey, who is also a distinguished professor on the Mendoza faculty, who specializes in IT analytics and operations. They have 3 children, and they're avid, as you'll see, runners and bikers and world travelers, for that matter. I can tell you that it was whenever I meet with students, which is regularly during the semesters, I always ask students, who's a professor who's really jumped off the page for you? Wendy's name is mentioned frequently. And one of the students said that one of the reasons why she chose her major in management and organization, she said, when you have teachers like Wendy and Corey and a couple other faculty members there, how could you not take that? And there's a lot of wisdom in taking the teacher, not the course. And Wendy represents one of those, terrific teachers. So welcome, Wendy. Thank you so much for being with us. So if we could start out, tell us a little bit about, your very successful career in the healthcare industry, and when and how did you have this calling to become a professor, and what brought you to Notre Dame?
Well, thank you. Thank you so much for that very kind and generous introduction, Lou. I I wish I had my mom tuned in today to listen to that. So I have always had an interest in teaching my whole life, and just hadn't kind of found my path there. But the way that I found myself at Notre Dame is, as you mentioned, my husband teaches at the university. So I would say it's a combination of my husband and family and Notre Dame, just being the amazing place that it is. But Corey and I were both born and raised in Michigan. And after marrying in 1997, we had an opportunity to live in Australia and Southern California, and then ultimately landed in Wilmington, Delaware. And that's when I became involved in my healthcare startup in the late 90s there. While I was doing that, Corey was a mechanical engineer. He finished his MBA, went on for his PhD. And when he finished his PhD, one of the schools that he came to interview at was the University of Notre Dame. And so he came out here in 2007 in a cold month of February. And at that time, our first child, Lily, was 8 months old. So he called me so excited about his time here and the people that he met. And he said, "You're not going to believe this. I've left with an offer sealed in an envelope, and I'm going to wait and open it when we get home. But they gave me an offer." And I said, "Well, you told them no, right? Because we are not moving to South Bend, Indiana." My company was just north of Philly, and having a new baby. And so next thing I knew, we were on a plane out here to South Bend, Indiana, and arrived at the Morris Inn and had this beautiful gift basket with, a gift for the baby, a gift for Corey and I, a gift for our parents who had met us there. And it was really lovely. And the faculty even took time to meet with me, which I thought was just really touching. But we went back home, and I still was not 100% convinced. And then I'll never forget, I was driving home my 60-mile commute back to Wilmington, Delaware from where my company was located, and my cell phone rang. And it was a South Bend number, and I answered it, and the person on the line said, "Yes, hello, Wendy. This is Dean Carolyn Wu calling from the Mendoza School of Business." And she said, "I just wanted to tell you how much we would love to have your family here, a part of our community. And we really loved your husband, and I would love to have you here." And that, to me, really, helped me see just what a family and community-oriented place that the University of Notre Dame is. If the dean of the College of Business, one of the best ranked business schools in the world, took time to call the spouse of someone they were recruiting to just even be on the tenure track. I mean, he didn't come in as a tenured faculty member. So that's what really brought us here. And once here, I continued commuting back to the East Coast for a number of years, but I had reached out to Carolyn Wu a few times just to have coffee, because she's one of the most amazing people that I know. And over time, getting to know her, I had the opportunity to work with her on a redesign of the entrepreneurship program. And then after that, was given the opportunity to just teach as an adjunct. And so I did that. I always remember it. It was the very last trimester that I was pregnant with my youngest daughter. So the whole semester teaching, it's kind of an anxious time as it is, but every day I'd show up and I would be bigger. And then, so that was my first semester teaching. So that was fall of 2009, and then started teaching full time that spring semester 2010, and I've loved every minute of it.
Well, there's no question. You've been here, you and Corey, now for over a decade, and we're so blessed because you have become, as they say, kind of your blood is in the bricks. You've adopted the community, and the community has embraced you in every way. Now, you have so many different experience and areas of expertise across the gamut with design thinking and everything else. What is your favorite course to teach? What is the area that while you teach at a number of different disciplines that you feel most passionate about?
Oh gosh, that is a really challenging question, and I would say that I can't.
Which of your 3 children do you love the most?
Good, yeah, that I can answer, Lou. I'm teasing. I would say that just in general, I just love teaching, and I love teaching because you get to be with these incredible Notre Dame students, and everyone on the line here, I'm sure, could just speak volumes to the same, wonderful experience that we have just from the students that make up our community. But I would say that not just picking one course, but it's more this notion of the ethos of bringing experiences to courses. Coming from industry, that's one of my favorite things to be able to do, is to have this opportunity to work with students on addressing actual problems that companies are facing, that people are facing, that our world is facing. So, you mentioned a lot of courses that I've taught over the years, and a lot of those topics are kind of combined into a few courses. But my area of expertise the past decade has really been a course called Business Problem Solving, which I'm proud to say that course is now, just this past year, become a required course for all Mendoza students, which is really exciting to see. But we work with consulting firms, and every other week the students are engaging with, practitioners, and, having a chance to work in teams and solve these problems and then present back to a panel of experts. So that's been really fun, because it's helped a lot of students understand the different types of problems they're interested in working on, enabled them to network and identify employment opportunities or internship opportunities. So that's been great. And then in my innovation and design class, it's a little bit of a different approach. It's still problem solving, but we always begin with really, a focus around empathy for the person we're trying to design a solution for. So it's very much grounded in trying to understand the user's unmet needs, and then thinking about how we can best meet those needs. So with that class in particular, we typically do a project all semester long, but we've worked with the Center for the Homeless, which I know you have some roots with, the YWCA, the Boys and Girls Club, La Casa de Amistad, as well as 17 Magazine, Disney Channel, Live Nation, Chapelet Winery for the graduate students. And then most recently, my project has been with a girls' school in Uganda. So I love just the fact of bringing, the opportunity for both the industries that we're working with. They're always so impressed with the students that, that are coming in and engaging with them. But then also just the opportunity to work with these students, hand in hand on these really interesting challenges.
Yeah, no, I think given your industry background, one of the things that distinguishes you as a professor has been the commitment to experiential learning, is getting the students into the real world, into these kind of consulting relationships, and to learn not just from books or articles, but to learn from that firsthand experience and practitioners in the field. And you mentioned some of the many ways in which you engage your students, but you also have a project in Uganda. Can you tell us a little bit about that project and what that's meant to you and to your students?
Well, the project actually started last spring, and I had a project lined up with a company in the financial industry. I try and find projects that are meaningful, but also projects that I hear a lot of students just saying like, oh, that would be a great company to work with or be involved with. And so initially we had teed up a large financial firm that a lot of our students are interested in working with, and it fell through. And it was my first year being selected as a Pulte Fellow, or at the time it was a Notre Dame International Fellow. But through that meeting, I met another faculty member who was talking about work they've done in Uganda, and that led me to this this girls' school in Uganda called St. Bakita's that had just been going through some challenging times. It falls under the Archdiocese of Gulu for support, and this became our project. And this school, St. Bakita's, was founded in 2007 in response to all of these young women that were returning from the terrible Lord's Resistance Army conflict. And so when they were finally able to escape and leave their captivity, a lot of them returned home with children in tow and had missed out on years of schooling, and just really had bleak outlooks on life. So the school was founded, named St. Bakita's after St. Bakita, who's the saint for human trafficking. But over time, as I mentioned, the school, just has went through different challenges with funding and support. So in this region, aside from dealing with the aftermath of this conflict that wasn't that long ago, there's a great deal of poverty. Families make a little over $1 a day. It's a very paternalistic society, so a lot of the girls are expected to stay home and help care for their siblings and help with subsistence farming. They walk miles to get water from wells. They have no access to electricity aside from little solar panels. So there's just a whole host of challenges. So in March of last year, we were able to travel. I had a member from each team of my 2 classes of innovation and design, and we're able to travel to Uganda to spend time at the school and really, see firsthand and really understand what the environment was like. And I tell you, it was so eye-opening and life-changing for all of us. It was really incredible. One story that just has stayed with all of us, but we met a girl there who was a twin, and she was one of 7 children, and she had an aunt that advocated for her to be able to go to vocational school to learn a skill, where her identical twin was married off to a 38-year-old man. And this girl was 16 years old. So just, very, very different paths that their life has taken. So this work and the ability to travel there was made possible by a very generous endowment from a Notre Dame family that endowed experiential learning for the class. And they've continued to support this work. So once we came home and we had all of these ideas for things that we could do to help support the school, to better support the women and girls in this community, in my other projects in this class, we've made the recommendation, and then, students might stay in touch and try and do an internship. We were able to get even additional support from this family to continue the work. So we have a certain amount of dollars set aside for scholarship to help provide tuition support for the girls to go to school. The students that have continued to stay active with this have launched a Gofundme campaign, and to date have generated $44,000 to help with keeping the project going. We've received approval for a Notre Dame club called Innovation to Impact. I'm in the process of finalizing the hiring of a woman. You might have met her, Victoria Ninjura is her name, but she graduated from a Keough School of Global Affairs, and she herself was a young girl that had been abducted and held captive for 8 years in Uganda. But she's back at home, and she's now working with us as a technical advisor on the project, and we'll be meeting with the girls at our school. So it's really been just an incredible project that turned from a classroom project into a passion project. And yeah, even today, I already had a few calls this morning. We're interviewing a new head of school, and our endowment family is supporting putting in a computer lab so that our Notre Dame students and the students at St. Paquita's can work together one-on-one, and we can support some virtual learning to really help them excel.
That's amazing. It's wonderful to see that initial visit, right? That experiential learning opportunity for our students has resulted in so much more than you could have ever originally imagined, right? And the impact and the continuing relationship, and how that will not only benefit these young women in Uganda, but also have a deep impact and transformative impact on our students. It's just terrific. Yeah. You mentioned in March of last year, it was just you guys got over there. It was before the pandemic. It hit. Did you have trouble getting everybody back?
It was a very anxious time to be traveling, and I tell you that the Notre Dame network was so supportive. Just with the meetings that we had leading up to, and how they were monitoring, whether or not it was safe to travel. But even I have a Notre Dame alumni that I met. We connected on LinkedIn, and she was with the U.S. Embassy in Uganda. So up until the time that we had to put our phones away on the plane, she was monitoring all of the alerts coming across to see whether or not it was safe for our team to travel. But yeah, it was a little bit of an anxious time. And then once we were there, because of the poor connectivity, we were kind of removed from the way that things were unfurling. And so we did not know until kind of later in the game about the decision that, at that time Notre Dame had said students, do not come back from spring break. We'll just take a couple weeks and then hopefully we'll all be back. So that was the guidance that we had. But we flew home by way of Ireland and then Ethiopia, and we made it. So we were very, very grateful to make it back. And Corey and I thought we were going to have a few students living with us for a while, but everybody was able to make it home.
All safe and sound. That's fantastic. Yeah. Well, one of the areas in which you teach is in this new minor, innovation and entrepreneurship. And in Dean Martin Kremers, one of the core parts of his vision under his new deanship is to make the Mendoza College more inclusive of all students. And so this is one of, my understanding, 4 new minors that are housed within Mendoza for students that are coming from arts and letters or engineering or science or other backgrounds, non-business majors. What is it like? Is there much of a difference for you teaching non-business majors through this minor?
I have to say I am so grateful that Dean Kremers was able to, I think people used to call them the ivory walls or whatever, people kind of viewed were up around the business school. But I'm so grateful that he was able in his leadership and his vision to, help make that happen. It's been such a gift in the classroom experience to have different perspectives of looking at problems. And because of, the types of work that we do and the teams that we create, I'm always intentional about mixing up those teams so that the students are working with people who have been trained and have kind of a different way of thinking about these challenges. And it's been really fantastic. I'm thinking in particular, a couple of the students that have stayed really active with this work, some are from Mendoza and from consulting and from finance, but I have a mechanical engineer who stayed active with the project, a young woman who's studying environmental sciences who's been really committed to helping us think about the deforestation crisis that's happening in Uganda. So it's been really phenomenal and has enriched the experience way more than I could express.
That's great. And also, Wendy, as we mentioned before, you have now for several years traveled and taught at the Catholic University in Milan, Italy. How has that impacted your teaching, and how are you finding ways to integrate Notre Dame students with students at La Cattolica in Milan? How has that maybe made you a different type of professor?
Oh, well, I would say that the opportunity to teach in Milan has really been phenomenal. I always joke, though, that I'm over there teaching a design thinking class, and our projects are focused on projects that align with the economics masters in arts management. And I always say they have a woman coming from the Midwest, South Bend, Indiana, to teach a class around design thinking in fashion and art in Milan. And sometime they're going to connect those dots and say, wait a minute, this doesn't make sense. But it's such a wonderful experience to be there and to engage with students. And one of the great things about that course is that obviously we have alumni all over the world and such great connections. And so a big part of my teaching there is very similar to what I do here, where we spend time visiting design thinking firms and doing, hands-on work and critiques of the students' work with design thinkers in Milan. And it's been really phenomenal. And I've had a lot of interest from our students at Notre Dame being involved in this class. So actually the last year was the first year that we set up a study abroad for the Notre Dame students to be on the team with the Cattolica students in Milan. And then unfortunately, as you know, all of our study abroad options were canceled. But this year we're on the books again, God willing, hopefully we'll be in person. But it's a great opportunity just for students to work with another student in a different culture.
Yeah, that's terrific. So the pandemic, as you've mentioned it several times, has definitely impacted teaching and education here at Notre Dame, as it has across the country at all different levels. How has it impacted you? What have been the biggest changes and the most critical ways in which you've had to adapt to this new reality?
You know, yeah, I guess a couple of things. You know, my teaching style, again, with everyone being in teams, I purposely seek out classrooms where I can have my students sit in teams at a table and be able to engage and work throughout the class period. So just, you know, thinking from a physical space standpoint, that certainly has been an adjustment because, you know, everybody's in their single seat and you're, you know, 6 feet apart. Even as an instructor, I'm very much, you know, hands-on. I you know, kind of joked that one of the biggest adjustments I had, especially when I have students that I had in another class and then they're coming into this class, is that I couldn't give them a hug. You had to be like, I'm sorry, hello. But yeah, so those were all adjustments. But you know, I was just so just so proud of how the university dealt with just enabling us to be in person, because being in person is just so much more engaging, even if it's not, you know, to the full extent of, you know, sitting side by side, you know, locked arm in arm. We're still in person together and we're still in the room together, and just being able to have those type of casual conversations that happen by being together in the room. So really proud of the fact that we were able to come together as a community and do in-person instruction in the fall. And, you know, thinking about it, I don't think there was ever a day that all of the students were able to attend in person. So you always had, you know, a live Zoom feed, whether, you know, a student was in a different country and wasn't able to travel, or they were quarantining. But the students showed up. Like I you know, was just so proud of how committed they were. And, you know, the stress that I was dealing with, I feel like was magnified by thousands, you know, for the students who are at college and not able to see their friends and can't, you know, go out and do regular internship, you know, opportunities, and their study abroads are canceled, and they just had so much going on, but they kept showing up and they did great work. And, you know, just true to, you know, what I've known all along with our Notre Dame students, like they just make you proud. You know, they really are just phenomenal people, and just kept showing up.
Yeah. One of the Holy Cross priests who's on the faculty here at Notre Dame once said to me that the greatest challenge of being a faculty member here at Notre Dame is being worthy of our students.
Yes.
Tell us a little bit, what is it like teaching the Notre Dame student, and what do you learn from them?
Oh my goodness. Yeah, I would say what it's like teaching. I completely agree with that sentiment that that it's such a privilege and an honor. And I always kind of joke that I can't believe that this is a job and someone actually pays me to teach the students, because it's truly such a gift. But what I would say I learned from the students, you know, I'm just always amazed. I always kind of, you know, when I receive resumes to help write letters of recommendations, or I actually have sitting here at my desk, you know, students, they take the time and they write you handwritten letters to say thank you for the impact that you've had, you know, on their lives. I mean, there's just, yeah, they're just incredible people, and their true commitment to wanting to do good in the world. I would say above all else, I just think it's incredible, just the type of people that we have as a part of this community. And it gives me, you know, especially with all the challenges that I feel like we're facing right now as a society, you know, working with the students at Notre Dame and just having an opportunity to be a small part of their world and their journey is such a gift, because they are our future. And it makes me feel so happy that that is our future. You know, that we have really phenomenal people that will be, you know, caring and compassionate and out there doing good work for us as we go forward. It just gives me a lot of hope.
Well, within this whole design thinking field, you teach a course called Designing Your Life.
Yes.
For students, and working with the students to really have a vision and a plan for what's important to them and how they want to live out their lives. We probably all, certainly beginning with me, could benefit from that class. So tell us a little bit about that course, and what could you give us? Begin with somebody as is in deep need as myself, with some tips for designing my life, for our lives.
All right. Well, tip number one, Lou, go to the dermatologist tomorrow. No, so it's funny. This course is something that I've had a passion for a long time, but I taught the course for my first time last year. So it's a new course. And before that, I would always do a professor's choice lecture for my last day of class. And my professor's choice lecture was always basically this whole course, but boiled down into a one class section. And, I mentioned the handwritten notes that you get from students. I would say almost more than anything else that I've taught, you have this whole semester and, you feel like you've, been working together so much, but you'll get the note and it will be, I really loved that last lecture. And, and that was kind of what really resonated and stuck with a lot of students over the years. So very happy to have the opportunity to create this elective, Designing Your Life. But I would say that the course, it follows the similar principles of design thinking. And, I typically say there's 5 stages to that. The first is really just beginning with empathy, and having empathy for another. And in this case, it's empathy for yourself and kind of where you are in life and what your past experiences have been. Then being able to go through the process of really kind of defining what matters, being able to ideate different paths forward, being able to prototype, so come up with ways you could think about how to take that idea into the world, and then how you test it and incorporate that. So those are the principles of design thinking. So in Designing Your Life, we apply that to the way that you first begin with, how do you empathize and really understand what things that you're doing in your life that you find a flow state, that you really enjoy doing, that you lose track of time. How do you think about the different path that you've chosen, and why did you choose that? And what does that mean to you? And what are you hoping to achieve? So it really begins with thinking about this in terms of a strategy, and thinking about how you use your time, because time is, finite for all of us. But how do you choose to spend your time, and what things can you choose not to do that maybe help you to invest more in things that are true to who you are and the values that you embody? The other part of that is we spend a lot of time thinking about, being intentional with your full self. So, this is bound to happen when you're in college, and a lot of this is kind of oriented towards developing skills to get the internship and to, get the job. But there's a lot more to people than just their career. And what things do you do to honor your family and your friendships and your faith and just yourself and the things that kind of make up who you are. And then I would say the kind of the final and the underlying part of this class is thinking about this in terms of, I call it a journey map, but what is the journey that you're on for your own path? And thinking about this journey of like, what is your career self journey? But what is your faith journey and your journey as a committed member of your community, of your faith? But thinking about all of those different aspects and how they relate. But the students have to do we call this an Odyssey Plan, and the students have to go through and create a plan of thinking about their life's journey if they continue on the path that they're on, and what they came to Notre Dame to study. Like, if that's your path, what does that look like? And then they have to do another path saying, if that didn't exist, do you think you really want to be an accountant? What if accounting went away and that was no longer an option? Then what would that journey look like? And then they do a third plan of saying, if money was no object and you could do anything, what would that plan look like? But then the fun thing, they have to kind of prototype and test out how they could explore different pieces of each of those 3 journeys. And a lot of that relates back again to our wonderful Notre Dame family and alumni network, because they have to go through and identify people through our Irish Compass and through LinkedIn, and find people that they can talk with to try and understand what it's like to be doing different types of roles and jobs beyond what they've initially signed on for. So I would say, creating the strategy, keeping your full self in mind, and then just, being intentional about different paths that your life could take, and knowing that there's not just one right path for everyone, and it's okay to have different options and let those kind of, weave together and explore different things.
Wow. What a wonderful course. I mean, I think all of us would benefit from from that course on so many different levels. I think one of the things that makes us distinct is a Catholic university. A lot of schools will talk about decision making or how to make good choices. But one thing that we get from our Catholic faith is discernment. And discernment seems to me to be something deeper, like you're touching on, than just decision making. And how do you discern and elements of prayer and silence and mentoring and everything else and coming up with those choices or discernments. It sounds like an absolutely fascinating class. As we close today, Wendy, any final pearls of wisdom, any parting thoughts that you'd like to share with the audience?
Oh goodness, pearls of wisdom seems like a tall order, but I would say parting thoughts to share with the audience, just because I know we have, a wide number of representatives from the Notre Dame family on this call. Is just, thank you. I mean, it's all of you make Notre Dame what it is, and such an amazing place for our students to continue to develop, to have these enriching experiences in the classroom, outside of the classroom, from the time that you take to have conversations as students, go through this process of thinking about their own path and trying to understand different paths that people have taken. Thanks to all of you. So I'm grateful to be a part of this community and this family and to work with so many wonderful people. So please, just keep being awesome, and thanks so much.
That's a beautiful note to end on, with a word of gratitude. Thank you as well. I know I feel my spirits are buoyed, and I feel incredibly hopeful knowing that our students are exposed to professors like you and all that you are offering them and making them think deeper and wider about their futures and the impact that their lives can have on this world as servants to one another. So thank you for the huge impact that you're making in the lives of students. We wish you and Corey and the three kids our best. And I want to thank everybody as well for joining us today. Next week, tune in at the same time if you're available. We're going to be joined by Professor Megan Sullivan, who is kind of famous on campus for pioneering the philosophy class that most all first-year students take, called God and the Good Life. She's the Wilsey Family College Professor of Philosophy, and she is also the director now of the Notre Dame Institute for Advanced Studies. So you want to tune in next week for another wonderful discussion. We always close, Wendy, so please join us, and everyone at home or in your workplaces, with a prayer to the patroness of this university, the great intercessor, Our Lady. So if you just join us with a Hail Mary. Hail Mary, full of grace, the Lord is with thee. Blessed art thou among women, and blessed is the fruit of thy womb, Jesus. Holy Mary, Mother of God, pray for us sinners, now and at the hour of our death. Amen. Thank you, Wendy. God bless you all. Go Irish, and we'll see you soon.
Thank you.